And I think we are live.
We are.
I will say cheers again for everyone that didn't see us before, just getting the
Cheers.
beers out and ready. Um, I suppose everyone's used to me having a beer when I'm doing these things as well at this stage. So you can blame me for getting Mark drunk if there's any mistakes or missteps during the event. And yeah, introduce yourself, Mark. Tell everyone who you are, what you're doing, and
Oh,
what this night's going to be.
yes. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you joined in to learn a little bit more about how to build your own reactivity engine. I'm Mark. I'm a self-employed web developer based in Luxembourg. I work on my own. I love working with Vue and Node.js. Those are my core technologies. I work very closely with a company in Germany that does amazing stuff with software where enterprises connect with their customers on a way more personal basis. So it is a virtual communication system, but we try to make it as on-site as possible. So that's very exciting. Yeah. What else is there to know?
Well, I think another thing is we've since a lot of times, and well, recently not so much, but it's funny that the guests are getting further and further away from me all the time. So you're over in Luxembourg now,
I'm
so
in
streaming
Luxembourg.
in.
Yes.
So this is great. Although we are in lockdown today went back into lockdown today in Ireland, it's really nice to be able to get guests from all over the world really to have such a variety of topics because as we were talking before this as well, you have a pretty small tech scene in Luxembourg, similar to ourselves in Dublin versus some of the big countries. So it's nice to get these kind of events and get people from different countries. So it really brings a different dynamic to everything. So thanks a million for taking the time.
Yeah, sure. Niall, sure. Glad to be
Uh,
here.
yeah. So what got you into coding in the first place? Just as a quick warm up question, really.
Well, it's a loaded question actually. I got. Let's start here in Luxembourg. When you go to how is it called? High school, you can choose, and when you are at the ninth grade or 10th grade, you can choose which direction you want to go. You want to be mathematics, you want to be languages, mechanics, electronics, computer science, and so on. And I chose computer science. So from the age of 16 on, I was determined, or at least I tried to become a software developer, or at least something with computers. Didn't know exactly what. So that's where my coding career started. After high school, I made a bachelor and master's in software engineering in Austria. And that's how I got into software development. And I moved then to Mexico, where I got an opportunity to create an intranet for a university. And I didn't know anything about web development because that's not what my career focused on. So everything there I learned from Greg Pollack. For the ones that know him, he's an amazing tech teacher. He now has also Vue Mastery, one of my favorite Vue.js resources. And then that's where it all started. Started developing things and kind of on-demand learning.
Nice. And I think I'll probably get a slagging in the chat as usual because last week I also had somebody who preferred Vue than React on, and I'm always pro React. So it's always fun. It's nearly like bringing up politics in the tech world, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of uncalled for almost always, because like the major tools, React, Vue.js, Angular, they're all very good tools. There is none that is like extremely better than the other one. I think it mainly depends on personal preference when you boil it down, because they all can do everything you want them to, and some in another way than the other, but you get the result and it's always working great. So I always try to not of course I make jokes with my friends and on Twitter, hey, you are using Angular, which age are you from? But it's all in good fun, and I know
Yeah.
that those every tool has its place. So
No, I get
Yeah.
it. Like, I think at this stage it's a comfort zone for me because I've been using, and Praveen said it there in the chat. It's just JavaScript at the end of the day, and I think even this whole talk is about showing that these things are built with JavaScript.
Yeah, exactly.
So like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I know I've just been using React since version 0, so it's just what I know at this stage. It's coming up to 6 years, I think, nearly at this stage. So it's
Wow.
like as I said, it was back when there was even a dodgy license on it, and I think that's why most people then went to like Angular and Vue as well at the start. So it's been interesting to watch them all split up and have their own cults nearly.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, and so you then also just recently talked at VueConf. So we will. I'm going to get the actual. Is that video up? Is that actual video on YouTube for people to watch now?
Yes, there is one. It actually
I'll get it.
released.
I'll
Yeah,
get it off you after. Or we
we
can put it
check
in the
late. Yeah.
description.
Yes.
Because as I said, because I know you're going to introduce this video in the talk and about why you're brought up this topic, and so I want to make sure I have a link to give to people. I can even go look for it in the background. So
Yes, to talk a little bit more about why I do this, I made a talk on Vue.js Global about almost the same thing. So anyone who saw my talk or will see the talk sees very like many similarities. Just in my talk, I compared Vue 2 against Vue 3 reactivity, and I also coded some of the things that we will code today. Just today, we have more time to go more into depth and take more time to explain things, not not necessarily depending on Vue, but more like watching how can you build reactivity from scratch. And it happens to be the way that Vue 3 does it at the moment, because that's the only thing I know how to make reactivity at the moment, Vue 2 and Vue 3.
nice.
And yeah, it's actually it started the whole reactivity thing because when I started coding Vue, it was like, oh yeah, all this happens like magically, basically. Like it's all crazy how it all works. And I was pretty much in the dark until on the in the dark about that until like February, where I went to Vue.js Amsterdam, fantastic conference where I also had a workshop with Evan Yu. And Evan Yu had an 8-hour workshop where he showed very internal things of Vue.js. So eight
Wow.
hours live coding with a guy that types double as fast or triple as fast as I do. Without any coding mistakes. So that's probably not going to be the code, the thing today. I might make some more mistakes, but something that really caught my eye is like reactivity. It's solved, especially in Vue 3, so elegantly. And I hope you can see the same thing after we're finished here, that it's really a beautiful thing. And more importantly, that it's not that difficult. It's not so magical. It's like less than 100 lines of code, and you have the whole reactivity engine of Vue. Like it's not very complicated. It is a little bit complex, but it's nothing complicated. There's no frameworks. It's all with basic JavaScript functionality, and I think that's something beautiful you can take away from this talk when you see that it's not really that all that crazy code. It's almost straightforward.
Yeah, almost, you say. So
Almost,
maybe
yes.
why don't we jump into it? I might just remove myself and I'll continue drinking my beers here in the background and talking to chat with people as well. And you can introduce this to everyone.
Okay, great.
Right?
So I'm going to share my screen now. I
Yeah, let
do
me make
have,
sure it's shared.
yes. Let me screen share. I do have a small presentation to introduce some basic concepts
Great.
of this, but where is it?
Yeah.
Share. What wrong? I have to take this here. Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Excellent.
okay. Can you? Perfect. Okay. So now I will start the presentation, so I won't see you anymore. So if I don't look or try to look at you there,
that's
the camera.
all right. So I'm going to hide myself as well as I drink and dribble on my beard. It's probably better off that I'm hiding. So yeah, please take it away.
Okay, so if anything is wrong with the visuals or anything, just say it in the mic. I will hear it and I will stop and see what's going on.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Yes, building reactivity from scratch. I already talked a little bit about this. I can almost skip this. I talked about all of this except that I have a podcast called Whiskey Wednesday. It's just finished its first season, so we're not going to be back until December or January with that. And of course, to look at this photo of that handsome man is me, and that is my little dog. She's called Yoda, just like in Star Wars, a little bit nerdy, I know, but I think that's kind of has to be. So what is reactivity? Now, wait for it. Bam, it's magic, right? That's the first thing that I thought when I saw reactivity, when I started learning how to code. But as I said before, it's not really that complicated as some people might imagine it. So this talk is about clarifying a little bit how it's done, at least how it's done in Vue 3, and you can take like some lessons away from that how you can resolve something like that, and that it's basically the talk is about how that it's not all that crazy coding as one might suspect. So what is reactivity? It's not rocket science. Sorry, Alan. It's not rocket science. It is basic JavaScript. Well, not that basic. It's included JavaScript features that we are leveraging to build something reactive. So, okay, now that we know what it's not, what is reactivity now? Seriously, what is it? What it basically is, it's when we change one thing and it updates information wherever we need it. So the only thing we need to do is we need to listen to changes and then notify something that a change happens. This is called, or this is known as the observer pattern. And to complete our reactivity, we just need to find a way to somehow automate this observer pattern, that we don't have to do it manually. So let's see, reactivity in Vue 3. There are some building blocks, proxies, reflect, set, map, and WeakMap. We will see a little bit more about all of this later, but you can imagine Vue 3 reactivity like this little chihuahua standing on a couple of cheeseburgers. It's standing on those pillars that for this dog are cheeseburgers, but for Vue 3 is proxy, reflect, set, map, and WeakMap. Hope you like the dog. I look pretty long for this picture. So, okay. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some terminology I will use, so you know what I mean when I say something. For example, effects. When I say effect, it's a side effect that we want to happen when something changes. So how can you imagine what this is? We will see a little bit more detail later, but it's just a function. It's a function we execute when something changes. So when I say effect, it's a function. The observer pattern, there we subscribe these effects or functions to a collection, a set, but we come to that later. We subscribe those to a collection, and then we execute all the effects when a change happens or when we detected a change. So that's how we implement the observer pattern. But how do we do it automatically? How do we automate it? We override the getters and setters in the object properties. And we do this by leveraging the ES6 proxies. which is probably going to be the most complicated part of this talk, but again, not all that complicated, because we're just going to look at a little part of it, the little part that we are going to leverage. So a little theory about proxies. It's an ES6 feature, and on the top you see an object. It's a regular JavaScript object, as above. Name, you can have a name which is a string, and age, it's a number. And when you create a proxy from an object, it behaves the same way. So when you set a value, a new value, it updates in the object, and when you retrieve a value, it also goes to the object and asks, hey, what's this value? Okay, but the cool thing about proxies, the little superpower it has, is you can go ahead and you can intercept these calls. So when you set something, you can go ahead and completely customize your code. You can even break it. You can always return null if you want. It would just break your code, but that's something you could do. Also, with the getter, you overwrite the get, and every time the code accesses the object, it runs through that code, and again, you can completely optimize. You can customize it completely. We are going to see more about that later in the live demo. But that's the part of the proxies we are going to leverage in this example. Okay, we have the set, map, and WeakMap. So this is a little bit how Vue 3 organizes the data, but I mention it here because it's exactly what we are going to code. So we might only get the chance to implement one of those. The easiest one, it's the depth, but I feel pretty confident we will have enough time to do all of them. But let's dive in and see what they are. So the depth or dependency, it's a set. A set is, you can imagine a set like an array of, like an array, but if you add something that already exists in the array, it doesn't add it again. So all the values are unique. So all these effects are unique. And remember, an effect is nothing more than just a function as such. So a depth is a set of effects, if you will, or a collection of effects. So all the effects for a specific property on an object. So when we see what all of these three are, it becomes a little bit more clear what this exactly means. Okay, yeah, as I mentioned, these sets don't have double entries, which make it interesting for this case. Okay, then there is depth map. This is a map, so a key value pair where the key is a string. So something like this, name and age. Those are the keys. It's just a regular string. And the value is not a natural value, but it is a set. Which set? The set of effects. So where's my animation? There it is. Okay. So here we have depths, so sets of effects for each property. For each, I have to say it like this: depths for each property on the object. So this is necessary, for example, if an object changes something inside. And you don't want to update everything from that object or all the effects that depend on it. If just one value changes, it might be that value is just used in one little space and all the others are untouched. So you just want to change one little part of it. again, this will come a little bit more clear when we start coding. Okay, now the target map, it's a WeakMap. WeakMap is also a key value pair, but this is a little bit special because the key is not a string, the key is an object. So to visualize it, the key is an object, could be something like this, with a name and an age. And the depth map is this map of sets of effects. So this might seem complicated or overcomplicated, but it is all in the interest of optimization. So in this target map, the one on the left, on the WeakMap, this is, so we have just a map of all the objects we want to track. So in this case, as you see on the bottom, with the object with the name and the age. So we could have another object there. It's let's call it, it's another person. The name is Jack and the age is 20, for example. So for each object, you have a depth map because it's important which one of the targets updates. And then again in the depth map, then you have again categorized between, or distinction, you have a distinction between each of the properties. And then for each property, you can have, or you don't have to, but you can have multiple effects. It could be just one thing that you want to change, but it could be 10 different parts of your code that you want updated. So this is how Vue 3 handles things. And we are going to use the exact same naming as Vue 3 does it. But yeah. So one last thing for the terminology, tracking and triggering. So track, we use the word track when we want to register an effect. So we add an effect or the function to the set. And the trigger is we notify all the effects that are registered in our set. So I would now say, are there any more questions, class? But I can't see you and I can't hear you. So I will just assume that everything
if there is questions, don't worry.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Yes, I will try to explain and re-explain while I go along coding, but I think it's going to be fine. So let's get this party started, or let's get this live demo started. So let me just, there we are. So the title of this talk was From Scratch. So we are really going to start from scratch. I have an empty folder here, and I'm going to start by creating a new file. Well, maybe I might zoom in a little bit. Okay. Oh man, I need to create a folder first in my, oh, sorry. Reactivity from
Question
scratch. Okay.
Already coming in.
Yes.
It looks like a tree being constructed. Is it so?
Yes.
Perfect.
Every time we access a property of an object, we add it. We build that tree basically. Yes.
Nice. Cool.
Okay, so here I'm going to create my index file. We just need this for implementing things. So here, your rules. Yes. Okay. Here we are going to have a script tag and reactive. Let's call it just reactive.js. And we create another file, which is going to be a JavaScript file. Reactivity. Oh, now I called it Reactivity.js. Oh, React. Okay, so let's log something out here to see if it works. Hello, and then we start our live server. What? Great demo, Mark. Okay, hold on. I will. Huh. Maybe there, let me see if there's another instance running of this. We'll just close it. Hey, not working. Hold on, I will just close the entire thing. And who else likes Marvel? Captain America?
I love that, turning on and off the server. It always works on and off again. It can't fail.
I made this like a million times and it never failed.
The age-old, it works on my machine.
Yeah. Open a folder. Oh, works. Oh, I didn't open. Hold on. I know what the problem is. I need to, let's call this here. This is what we created. No, this is not what we created. This is what I created earlier today. This is what I created now. Just a couple of empty files.
Is a Captain America fan. We have another Captain America fan here as well. So
yes, nice. Okay, I'm pretty confident we can do it now. Hello,
yes, that looks better. We can
works.
see your files. Hey.
Yes. Okay. So I will make this a little bit smaller. I will drag this from the other screen. Make this a little bit smaller. Okay. And we want to look into the console. Hey, hello, it works. So we don't need the actual rendered DOM here. So we just use the JavaScript console for now. At the end, we might add something cool there. Okay. I just open the two files here. Then I will close my sidebar. Okay. Okay, so far so good. Already had a hiccup. How bad can it be? Just hold on one second. Never code and drink, they say. Okay, so we start simple and we gradually add some things to our code to make it better. And so at the end, we have some sort of reactivity. So let's just start with a product, and that product has a price, €5 or dollars, or what do you have again in the UK? Pounds, yeah. And we have a quantity. Let's call it 3. Okay, and let's say we want the total of this. So we calculate the total is the product price times the product quantity. When we log it out, nice, something that worked. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So yeah, nice. Okay, so far so good. But now when we go ahead and we change something, for example, we set the quantity to 4, we know what's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen because it doesn't update the total. So we could do something like this. We take this code. After changing this, we just update our total and bam, it works. Cool. So now I will also change the price. The price is going to be 10. And I log it out again. And we have the same problem. We have to copy again and again. We have to execute again and again this line of code where we update the actual data that we want. This is not desirable code. This is, let's try to do better. So instead of doing this, let's just create a function. Just for the fun of it, let's call it effect. That might indicate something or it might not. We will find out. Okay. here we go ahead and we do this. We calculate the total by multiplying these numbers, and we start here with 0, for example, and then instead of doing the doing this calculation, we just call the effect. We also have to call it here to make the first value. If not, it would be 0. So let's try this. So it's 0, 20, and 10. Why is it 20? Oh yeah, because we changed it to 4. Okay, but if we want the effect first, it will have the 5 times 3, 15. Great. Okay. So this is already better, but let's start implementing our observer pattern. For that, we need the 2 functions that we saw at the last, or the slide before the last slide, the track and the trigger function. So we have track and we have trigger. Nice. Okay, so this here we register the effects to the, let's call it depths, or it's going to be a set. Okay, and here we execute. Oh yeah. Execute all the effects. So this is going to be called when we detected that there is a change somewhere. Okay, let's start with track. So when we track something, that means we want to be aware of its changes. So we want to add the effect to the list of stuff that needs to happen when it changes. So we go ahead. We need the dep here, and as we saw in the presentation, it's going to be a set. So all we have to do is dep.add the effect. For now, this is this effect right here. So just one, and afterwards we evolve our code, so it's going to be more reproducible. Or how do you say? Yeah, you can use it in various places. Okay, so now when we call track, we add the effect to the set, which is great. Okay, and now for the trigger, now we want to execute all the effects that were registered here. In this case, it would just be one, but we just iterate it, and in this dep there are effects, so we call it effect, and we just execute it. Done. Okay. Now we can do this. We can, instead of the effect here, well, first we track. So we register our effect in our list here. And then instead of effect, we just call trigger. And it remains the same result. So again, to recapitulate, is that even a word? Oh yeah, I will say it's a word now. Okay. We track, so we add the effect, which is here, in this case, calculating a value. We add that to our list, or set to be strict. And when we call trigger, we just execute all the effects that are going to be there. Now it's just one, it could be many. Okay, so now we have basically our observer pattern in place. Now let's just take a little side step and comment this out, and we play around a little bit with the proxies. So we have here our product. Remember the product, and it has a price and a quantity. Well, let's just take this down so we can see it when we code something down here. All right, so now we have let's call it a product proxy, and this is a new proxy from the product. And here on the second parameter, we pass something that's called a handler. We will see more about that later. Okay, so now we created proxy from the product. So let's just pull up again this slide here. So again, to recapitulate, the proxy like sends data to the object and gets data from the object, but it doesn't really have its own. Yeah, well, it does, but yeah, it's linked to the object. So when we do something like we log out, for example, the product proxy, my God, price, we can see that it's the same. And when we set it, product proxy price is, I don't know, 11, and then we log it out again, it will be 11. So far, we didn't change anything. So why the proxy? Because here in the handler, we can individualize or customize the code that is supposed to happen. We can override it. So here we can add something that's called traps in this handler. So we can, for example, go ahead and override the get function. The get function or the getter is when we read when we read a property from an object, then we use the get. So let's just log it out, get, and then see what happens. Oh, I will zoom out here a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So since we call the getter here twice, or we access the property twice, we have two outputs, get, and then we have undefined. Why is this undefined? Yeah, because we overrode the code of get. So now our code is completely useless. Congratulations. But so if we return something like, I don't know, 47, it would be 47. So now here we want to return the real value. So here in the get, we have some parameters. We have one target, one key. No, just a target and a key. Okay. So the target is going to be the it's going to be the object, or original object, and the key is with which key I want to get in this case. In this case, it would be price. So let's just go ahead and no key. Okay, so get price. If we went ahead and we said the quantity, it would say get the quantity, and it's still the same here, 47, 40, each one of them, because we still didn't implement our results. So let's go ahead. What is it going to be? It's going to be the value of the target of the key from the target. So it's going to be something like target key, and we just return this. Okay, this seems a little bit more like it. So we get the value from the beginning, which was 5. We override it, then it's 11, and we get the quantity, which was 3. Perfect. Okay, so this works already. What we also can do is we can override our setter, which is just going to be set. Let's also get here, it has a target, key, and value, because since we are setting, we need to know in which object, for which key, which value we are going to replace it with. So let's just log it out, log set, and the key and the value. So we have just one set here, set the price to 11, set price to 11. Cool. So if here we would go ahead, product proxy dot quantity is 10. We would also see that here, set 10. Here, the result is going to be a Boolean. It's going to be, we could do something like result true. Here it just returns if the setting of the value was successful. I don't know in which case it wouldn't be successful. I'm not that deep into this, but there are cases where it could have not been successful. All right, let's go ahead and calculate our result. Well, no, the result is true, okay, but we still have to set the value in our target. So the target, well, the position or the property with whatever we pass here, key in this case, price, we are going to set it to the value we are passing, in this case 11. Okay, so we set this and we say, okay, true, this was successful. Is this right? Sure, looks like it. Okay. All right, now it comes a little bit of, I told you there's no such thing as magic when it comes to reactivity, but something that's close to it. So let's just start here. Instead of just doing this, we can use something that's called reflect. Reflect.get and reflect.set. We pass the target and the key. Nothing happens now differently because this is just doing the same thing, just to check. But now comes the magic. There is an extra parameter here that we have in the getter and also the setter. Is called receiver. As I understand it, the receiver is the proxy object, and when we pass this receiver to the reflect, here we are going to solve some issues that we have in Vue 2. This is when, well, basically this ensures us that we pass this. This ensures us that we always have the correct this keyword when we are dealing with the proxy. I have to be honest, I don't know the exact workings of reflect and how it plays here, but I know that when we do this, we have less caveats in that we had in Vue 2, going to be solved in Vue 3. For example, when you just add a property to an object that wasn't tracked before, you have problems. This is not going to happen. So here we are going to do the same thing. Our reflect, already done. Okay, we are going to set reflect set, and we are going to do the same here. We pass the receiver. So this is also solving our problems, but these are very technical things that happen there that, as I mentioned, I'm not that deep into this reflect thing, but this is what I can tell you about it. Okay, so also this reflect.set returns the value if this was successful, and yeah, we're going to return it as such. And we have, receiver is not defined. Oh yeah, you're right, receiver is not defined. There we go. Okay. Okay, now nothing really changed in our output, but in a way, things are going to be handled later. Okay, so I would say so far so good. Let's see, what did I want to do? Okay, I don't remember. Okay, yeah, so, oh yes, I remember. So I told you the second argument, which is basically this here, is called a handler. So let's refactor our code a little bit and we just call it by its name. It's just like in Harry Potter, you call Voldemort by its name. You don't say you know who. You just say the handler or Voldemort. So, okay, and then so now we are going to, since we have already this set up, it's already pretty this functionality is pretty reusable. So we are going to put it in a function. The function we call reactive. And we pass here an object, or as we call it in Vue, target. And we are just going to do this here. So I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to explain again. Here, I'm going to make some small changes. Instead of just assigning this, we return the proxy. And instead of the product we have on the top, we just pass whatever we just pass to proxy whatever we pass to reactive. Okay, so again, product proxy is not defined. That's true. The product proxy is not defined. So we just take this away. So what this does, this function is called reactive. This, you can see it this way. It turns an object into a reactive object, so that when something changes, there is tracking and triggering involved. You see, there's still no tracking and triggering here, but we are going to add that. Why didn't anybody tell me this is too much? This shouldn't be there anymore because we replaced it with this. So I will just get rid of this. Okay, and now, okay, so it says it will turn the object reactive, but in fact, it still doesn't turn it reactive. To turn it reactive, we have to call track and trigger. So let's figure out where are we going to put what. So when we access a value like here, we want to track it. So we want to add it to our list of things to track literally. So I would say we go ahead here, we call track. And when we change a value, we call here, here we change a value, the set is going to be called, and here is very convenient if we trigger our function trigger here. Okay, so nothing happens yet because we don't have any code. I will remove the console, or I comment out the console logs, because if not, it's going to be too much output. And one last thing to do before we can demo this is we have to turn our object here. We have to turn it reactive with our reactive function. So we're just going to, copy that up there and pass the object here. So to recapitulate, we pass our object, we want reactive. So every time we change something, we want to be notified. We pass it to our reactive function. Then we create a proxy from it. In this proxy, we do what is expected. We set a value, but also we call track and we call trigger. So basically, we automated our observer pattern with this. So let's see if this works. So we have our, let me just move this reactive function a little bit more on the top here. There we go. So we have more space. Okay. All right. So when we go ahead, oh my God, how are we going to? Let me see. Product dot. Is there still the logging here in the? No. Let's add a console log here to see what happens. So for the trigger and the track, we're going to add a log that we see, so we can verify if the track and trigger is really executed. Okay, so now we have the product dot price is 10. Let's see what happens. Gets triggered. Okay, so far so good. Oh yeah, it's because we set it. Okay, we set it, so it gets triggered, and when we get it, product price, we track it. So it would be convenient for this to be on top, because the first time we get something, or we access the getter of an object, it goes through all this getter, and we track it. Tracking means we add it to the list, and then oh, I lost my train of thought. Damn it. Okay. Oh yeah, when we access it, it gets added to the list. So after that, when we override it, it gets triggered. But now I don't know why there is 3 tracks here. Ooh, let me figure that out. Oh, no. I don't call effect anywhere. Oh, yeah, I do. Okay, my bad. This happens because we trigger it 2 times more because of the effect. Oops, here we access these. Okay. Oh my God, this demo is horrible. Anyhow, let's make this clearer, because now we are changing things here, and we only want to change things when we actually want an effect or a side effect. So we don't want it in any code, but just where we actually want it. So okay, let's make one last test. Product. Well, hold on. Here, let's log out. Total changed. Total. Okay. Total changed to 30 when we did this. So now when we do product dot quantity is 8. Yes, the total changed to 80. Still don't know why it's tracked twice.
Could you walk through maybe this like from top to bottom so far?
Yes, sure.
Just because
Yes.
I'm slightly lost, so I'm guessing if I'm feeling a little bit
Yeah.
lost, it can't be just me.
Okay, let me just open a window because I'm hot.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, that happens when you're messing up a demo. You get hot.
For sure. No, not at all. It's very interesting. I've never used. I never even knew about this proxy keyword. So it's very interesting to see it in action. I'm here. Also, I've been putting links into MDN and things and explanations in the chat from the documentation and things, because it's very interesting and I can see how it can be powerful as well. I just want to make sure I fully understand how these things follow, kind of step through.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I want to figure out why there is 1 track too much. Something is not adding up here, and I don't know why.
No
just
worries.
Give me 1 second, and I will. Why is that? Why is track called? We get it. Okay. This is not doing anything, right? Oh, it was. Okay. Okay, it's time to take out the cheat sheet, the code that actually worked. Hold on. There must be one small error, because if now I explain it to you, it will be faulty, and I will explain something that's faulty to you. So
Nice.
I will just...
That's the fun of live coding as well.
Yeah.
I think it's important, and I suppose this demystifies it even further, that it's you're only one little small change away from making it even more convoluted.
Yeah, when I go over it afterward, I think it will be fine. I think now, because I stumbled a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have that part in my cheat sheet. Great. Okay. So basically what happens is there is... Why we don't read this data?
Because
Why?
you're using product dot
I
price
use
and product
price.
dot quantity. That's
Oh,
triggering
yeah.
it twice,
Yes.
isn't it?
Oh, yes, it's tracking it twice.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
I
there's
thought
two
it was...
values with product dot price and product dot quantity.
Yes.
So we'll call it twice, won't it?
Yes.
So it's down, and that effect,
anyhow,
you have
no.
product
Anyhow,
price.
I don't execute the effect anywhere. Oh,
You're adding
yes,
the effect.
I do.
Yeah,
I
for each
trigger
effect.
it. Yes.
Effect. Yeah.
Yes, I trigger it later. Okay, this is not okay. Okay, great.
Makes sense now.
It makes sense. Okay. I think I will add one more step. No, that will make it too complicated. Okay, I will go with you through it again.
Bruno
how
in the chat says maybe when you calc total, use two variables and trigger get 2 times.
Yes, that's what happens.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. Like, that's what I can see.
Yes,
So
I
if you
wasn't
remove
aware.
one of those values, I'm sure it'll probably end up
Yes,
being...
yeah. Now it will just be one track.
Yeah.
Yes,
See.
and when we... Yeah,
because it's using the getter on product twice, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, that's it. I was just not sure where effect is called, but of course it's called when we trigger something. So this is not completely finished yet. That's why the behavior is still a little bit strange.
Nice.
But okay, great. But that was bugging me. So I don't know why I didn't. I think I just didn't have the console log when I made my practice. So that's why it's throwing me off now. Okay, sorry guys for the confusion. Let me try to go. Can you guys still see it when it's a little bit more zoomed out like this? Or I zoom in better a little bit?
It'll take about 10 seconds before the chat catches up with the video anyway.
Oh, okay.
So I'll tell you. I'd say you're okay, so we'll see.
Okay, if something is a little bit too small, just say, and I will zoom it in.
They said they can see it in the chat anyway, so you can start the explanation. Perfect.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. Okay, let me just remove this console logs. Okay, so what we did so far is we created a track function which adds an effect to our set. So this is basically that we know what should be executed when a value changes. So in our case, the effect is this. So it calculates the total, and now also we throw out the total in the console. This is, so maybe the example is weird because there's only one effect, but we will come to that later. Okay, so we add the side effect or the effect to let's call it list, to a list or a collection of data that's going to be executed. Actually, this will become a little bit more complicated, or that's what I told you, that I don't know if I should do that or not, but okay. So we added, that's the part of subscribing in terms of observer pattern, and the trigger
is that like a middleware or of sorts, if we were to think about it in that way? Something that it like is so, and does it get called with every change?
It gets, well, the track, yes, the track gets triggered every time. Maybe trigger is the wrong word because we also have trigger here. Track gets executed every time when the data is read or is accessed from an object, when the where the property is accessed. So when,
Nice.
for example, as we had here here, we access this twice, or two, not twice, but two different properties, the price and the quantity. So there, the track is going to be triggered twice. This at the moment doesn't make much sense, because why twice when we already had it? That is where the depth map and the target map comes in, when we have different effects for different properties, but we might come to that later. And then we have the trigger. The trigger gets executed every time when we detect that there was a change in the variable, or in the property. I always forget how it's called. Property. The property. Okay. Yes, trigger is executed when we detect that there's a change. So when we run into this trap from our proxy. So if I would take out the track and the trigger, it would work just normally, and track and trigger wouldn't be called at all. But here it does. So yeah, so we have this. Well, this is basically, let's add a comment.
So this is when you're adding a new property, you get the effects added to the new properties.
Which one? Track.
So yeah, so when you set a new property, you start to track it with the effects.
Not when I set it, when I access it anywhere in the code.
Okay.
Or later on, just in the effect, but now anywhere in the code.
That's my fault.
Yeah. Yeah, trigger is every time when the value changes. So
Nice.
every time when I do something like, do I still have it? Like this?
Yes, it goes through that loop.
It goes. Yes. Okay. So let's just. Oh no, there's actually a great example here. So nothing happens up until here. No, actually here. So here the first thing that happens is we access the property. So no, that's wrong. First, we make it reactive, our object, which means it adds extra functionality to call track and trigger when stuff happens. So first we make it reactive. Okay. Then the second thing that happens, this is not important for this example. And then here we access the property price. So we access it, and since it's reactive, it goes boom all the way up here to here, get. It does its thing and it tracks the property. So we go up here and it adds it to the list. So now we know when this changes. So in reality, it would be here target key. So when the key of the target changes, well, here the key of the target gets tracked. We still don't do anything with the target and key here, but I think this might make it even easier. So here we say, okay, when the key for this object, let's call it object, the key for this object changes, notify me. And then that's this. And then when we set it, setter, it goes again here in our trap. It does its thing, and it triggers whatever effects are in the list of effects that need to be executed. And then it goes here to trigger, and it executes all the effects. In this case, it's just actually nothing. Well, yeah.
It's only with the product.price and when you're multiplying it, so you're changing it to total.
Yeah, Yeah, the thing is we still have like this effect which is static, and we want to make it more dynamic, which would be the next step. But that's basically it.
Let's have a look.
Okay.
Well, I think it will make more sense as well as it keeps continuing.
Yeah.
No, that makes a lot more sense after seeing it step through as well. I was getting a
Okay.
little bit confused as where it started and ended basically.
Okay, so now also when we have here, oh, we don't have our, oh yes, no. Okay, let's see here. When we call the effect, this is how it's supposed to be. When we call the effect, we call the first total, and we access the price, and we access the quantity, so it gets tracked. And now when we change something, product.price is 100, it recalculates the total automatically. So that's because when I put here again the same thing, when I trigger the setter, when I execute the setter, it executes also the trigger, which recalculates the total in this case. So this is pretty cool. So also when I do the quantity, let's put it to 800. So we can do this all day long. But yeah, now we still have the problem. We have always this same variable here, effect, which is not really something that we want. We don't want that anywhere in the code when something is accessed that we add it. So we want to do something like, lost again my train of thought. Damn it. Yes, we want to implement something that's called a watcher. A watcher is this thing that observes an object or objects and executes something. So it's basically what we already have, but we just want it inside an effect. So just when we want it, not everywhere in the code. So this is the part that is probably going to be the most confusing, but it's not even that much code, it's just a little bit confusing. So let's comment this out for a second, and let's create a function effect. This is our watcher. And in the effect, in the function effect here, we pass a function. And we have something here that's called an active effect. When we start, it's null. There's no active effect. So we just want to track when we are in an active effect, or when we are in an effect. So first we set the active effect to the function here. And then if and only if there is an active effect, then we execute it. If not, we don't. And we set it back to null. This is, at least for me, when I saw it the first time, very confusing, because you set something, then you execute it, and then you set it back, and you basically did nothing, right? But it's what is in all this. It has to do with all the reactivity that is now in our variables. So maybe it makes more sense when I do something like show how to use it. So we pass just a function. Oh, come on. And here is again, the total is product price times product quantity. And new total, okay. So what this does, okay, it's not finished yet, but okay, no, I start explaining. So this is basically we create an effect or a side effect that we want to happen when something inside of this changes. And how do we know that it's just stuff that changes inside of this? Well, because we have this. Well, we register it here with the track. Here it would have target and key, but that's basically it. But this wouldn't work yet because we have to check only if there's an active effect. Only then add it and not add the effect that is here, that was here, but the active effect. So now it will make more sense when I explain it again. So let me see if I can. Can I make a split screen with the same file, that I see the same file but on different tabs? Does anybody know that?
Can you see which?
So that I have the same file but in different tabs. So I could do this, right? Oh.
Like you can split right and
yeah.
split, like if you right click that, you can split right. So if you right click it, split right.
Okay.
And now you can X that, and now you have the two.
Yeah, there we go. This
I'll full screen this so people can see it a little bit better. Perfect. No, I'll full screen it here, our side. So
okay. Okay. We have here I focus this, and here I focus the watcher. Okay, so what happens here is we want to know, we want that stuff updates, or that total updates on, or no, how do you? Yeah, we want this function to be executed only if something inside of this function changes. Okay, therefore we first need to know what are the things that can change. Those are again the we determine it with the getter here. So basically we execute the getter here twice. So we also call the track twice. We saw that in the thing before. So here we have two properties that could possibly change. And when those change, we want that the total gets calculated again. So this is, yeah, that's that. So what happens, we pass this function into the function that's called effect, and it sets the active effect. You can call this as the, you can see it as the global, kind of global effect, or yeah, or as the name says, the active effect, something that's actively been run through. Let's call it like that. And if only there, if there is an active effect, then execute it. And when we execute it, this is, but actually it would work without this if we executed it somewhere here. Well, no, we have to execute it. Sorry. This, we have to, we execute this just for the purpose to trigger these getters. I think that's the best explanation. So when we create a new effect, we call it once, so we know what's inside. Does that make sense?
I think so. Just run through that one more time. Sorry, I was just seeing somebody said the screen was invisible, but I can see it on the YouTube stream, so I think it is.
Okay.
So
Okay.
walk through that one more time.
Okay, so when we create a new effect, so again, a side effect we want to run when something inside of that function changes. So in this case, if price or quantity changes, we want the total to be updated because we exit here. So we call this function called effect, which is our watcher. We set this, let's call it global variable or the active effect that's been run through, and we execute it. And why do we execute it? We do that because we want to trigger the getters here and here in order to track them here. So that's why it says here, if there's an active effect, add it, because if
so
now
that triggers, so it updates, and so I suppose so wherever you're using the value, it knows about it now.
Genau, that's German. Yo, it's okay. Yes, exactly. So yeah, it gets executed once, so the it gets tracked. After that, it also gets it still gets tracked, but it doesn't get added because this is a set. So basically, this thing gets called all the time, track, every time when we access something here. It gets called, it checks, am I in an active effect? Am I not outside the code that I want tracked? So let's go back to the browser. Hold on. Here. No. Oh, I'm full screen. Okay. There we go. Here. Okay. So let me just try if it still works. Product.price is 9. New total. Okay. So if I were to making an example out of that would be probably more confusing than like this. Okay, does this watcher thing make sense so that it runs the thing for the sake of knowing what's inside? Because that was the thing that I found the most complicated.
I was muted there. Yeah, I think what was catching me there for a couple of minutes was realizing that it was the quantity multiplying the value, so it was the real update there. So I was confused just on I suppose the reactive values we had, or it multiplying. So I was like, how is I was doing the maths in my head. I was like, where did we get 27? I was like, oh yeah, the quantity is 3 and the new value is 9.
Yeah, this is an easier example. Let's set it to 1. We only have no. The price is 1, yes, and we have 3 of them.
Yeah, so it's 3. We're always running like it's the total is multiplying the object. Yeah, it's just it's kind of keeping a memory of which value we've updated to make sure I know. So
yes,
it's the 3 quantity by the new price, and that shows that it's live data, which is pretty cool.
Yes, and for example, if we would just not have this here, and I update the product dot quantity is 8. Huh, this shouldn't happen, or should it? Because I'm not tracking the quantity anymore.
New total 5. Yeah.
Well, oh yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, that's true. It doesn't work. It just calls new total. Because why?
And 8 is
Oh yeah, yeah, 8 is the number that I set here. So
Yeah,
it's just when it's oh no.
it's returning that value somewhere. It has to be returning it somewhere.
Let me just try something. Oh yeah. When you set a property, it gets returned.
Aha, excellent. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Glad it was you debugging that, not me.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So Praveen says he is a bit lost. So I think, I was a second ago, Praveen, as well, and then I just it clicked a little bit when I was just watching the values. I think if we start with the initial values that we have and show how they update, I think that might be useful.
Okay,
So when we're setting the reactive, it calls the reactive function. I think that's where I
okay.
forgot about this setter or the initial setting of reactive values.
Okay, so let's do something. I will refactor this. So all the reactive functions are in this file. Also the active effect. Where is it? Here. Goes all the way up here. Okay, now let's delete this stuff here. And then let's just move this out of the JavaScript file and here. So split it right. Okay. Okay. Now what I did is oh, okay, not enough space. Just I have all the reactivity functions in this file, and everything we use it for is now in the HTML file. So this would be somehow something that you could be doing with Vue. So you could import just the reactivity engine from Vue, which is something you can do. And then you can just use the reactive function. You can just use the ref function, which we didn't see yet. Maybe we won't, but you can use it very modularly from Vue.js. And this is something we do here. So we import this with all our functionality here, and let's go now through it step by step. Okay, first we create a new object which we make reactive. Reactive means that we trigger our observer pattern when something changes. Okay, so this happens here. So what it does again, it creates a proxy and it overrides with this proxy the getters and setters. So what basically the only thing we do differently here is we access the track and we execute the track and trigger here. This is basically the only thing we do differently than if we didn't have any reactive thing here. So when we make it reactive, that means that when we access a property, when we access a property of this reactive object, it gets tracked. So the system knows, aha, when this changes, I need to execute all the effects or all the side effects. So I need to recalculate something, for example. And when I set something, let's do it here, product price is 10. When I set something, it's the same thing. It's still the reactive object. So we still live in this proxy. So it's the set. We changed something, and we execute our trigger. What does the trigger does? What does the trigger do? It just executes all the effects we registered earlier. And this watcher here, the effect function, which is a little bit strange. Where was it? Oh no, here. So this is just so we don't change, we don't track things we don't want to. So if I would just read something here outside of the, if I would access a property outside of the effect, it wouldn't track it. So I would want to try that. I add here, let's call it value X, property X here. I hope this doesn't do something that I don't want. Okay, now if I access product.x, it should not track, at least not for the product X. Let's say here, tracking for the key. So here it should not say tracking for X because it's not inside an effect. Let's see. Oops. Oh, there. It says tracking for X. Okay.
Is that from the initial setting of these values that it tracks it once? So if you console or like if you console logged it a couple of times, like if you said console log product X like 3 times there, you'll still only see it once, as we only initiated those functions once.
Yeah.
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 So it's when you initialize the get and set.
Yeah.
They ran once for each.
Yes. Okay. Yes, it just runs for the price and the quantity, but not for X. When I yes. So just this first time. Okay. Okay, great. Let's see what else. Okay. So to visualize this a little bit more, we could build something that's a little bit outside of the console because that starts to get boring fast. So let's just build something cooler. So I delete this. I also remove this console log. Okay. So let's say we have here a total of it starts with 0, and instead of just logging into the console, we update it like this. Text. Okay. So by the way, this is not how Vue updates stuff in the DOM. There's a whole other thing. It's called virtual DOM, which is a whole different topic. But this is just to visualize some things. So now we have here, instead of just logging it out, it calculates the total and it updates it in our view here. So what we could do furthermore is we add a button. The button it reduces the quantity, let's say. So when we have on click, we just do product dot quantity minus minus. We can do the same with plus. Okay, so now we have something like this, completely reactive. Again, to recapitulate what happens here. Here in our effect, we access these two values.
This suddenly got really interesting when we seen it like actually in the
Yeah.
DOM. This is way more interesting now.
Yeah. Yes, that's why I did it. Okay. So again, here we access these, so they get tracked. So we execute the effect when one of these two changes, and we change it by just, in this case, clicking it like this. But if you like visuals, then I got some cool idea. We can have a color input. And let's just say our product has a color that it is white. And then we add another effect. When the color changes, then we update it in our DOM. So document body, style, background color is product.color. Still nothing fancy happened yet, but when we add an event on this on input, we just change the color of the product, not of the background directly, but just of our reactive property. So product.color is this value. And then, ooh, this is cool.
Yeah, this is where it starts to get really useful as well.
Yeah. So this is like kind of a cool little demo to demonstrate these different effects.
Nice. I really like this. This is really interesting now.
I should have started with this.
For next time, for sure. No, it is like even just seeing this as a result as well. It's just how little lines are in our DOM and body here now, and
yeah, in our body
get all these nice effects. Because I can only imagine doing this in JavaScript, it would be hell. Like without these helper functions.
Yeah. Now the thing is that every time any of the objects gets updated or any property of any objects gets updated, the effect runs. But that's because there are some things that we didn't implement yet. I just want to comment it here. I think it would be too confusing implementing it, but we would have here in the track and in the trigger part, we would have target and key. And here we would get the depth map of target map and get depth of depth map. This is something. This is something that happens in both. So it would be too confusing doing it now. So if you wondered why it always executed or it always updated, even though I change another property, this is why. So here is some implementation missing. So here we would do something like I won't code it completely out, but target map dot get from our target, and this would be the dead map. And then we would have something like dep is dead map get key. So again, I will delete this because it might get too complicated, but this is some steps that are missing to replicate. Where are my PowerPoint? Here, this things. So now we only work with this. We only have a set of all the effects for all the properties for all the objects. So the thing that now would be missing, it would be to make a distinction between which object was called and which property of which object was called or changed, not called, was changed. And yeah, but that's I think that's something for another day.
Yes, I think it might go a bit. It could cost be another hour and a half if we get into that as well. Especially when we have the reactivity thing. So like basically those dependencies are just checking that to update. Like I suppose the bits on top of this are to make sure it's the right dependency updating. Is it?
Yes, exactly. So for example, when now in our example here, where is it? When we change the color, everything gets updated. Also the total, even though we don't see it, it gets updated because these two effects are in the list of effects. So when something, whatever changes, everything gets updated. So it's inefficient, but it works for the small demo. But yeah, in case someone was wondering, but why? That's why.
Yeah. So this would only get impractical really when we start having say 100 properties really, and then like all of a sudden it's expensive to update all of the keys and values.
Exactly.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense then. You should definitely. I'd love to see a blog post on this detail. I know this is probably you could write something a little bit. You know what? You wouldn't get as many views on an article as interesting. We were only saying this the other day that when you end up writing something very detailed, a lot of people don't really care that much. But if you do something clickbaity, you know that's where everyone gets excited. But it would be interesting to see this.
Yes. Well, actually, like a while ago, like a few months ago, before COVID, or during COVID, I wrote articles about exactly this, but with Vue 2 reactivity. That there it worked a little bit differently, but I'm planning on doing something with this new stuff because I find it way more elegant than the Vue 2 stuff. I could show it to you, the Vue 2 stuff now, but it's too late for for that kind of information.
No, if you do update it, let me know, because like, or even comment on this video when it's up, and I'll pin the comments so that people that need to find more details on it will also find it then as well.
Yeah, perfect.
It's excellent. Is there anything else then to add to this? Any caveats?
No, the main thing is just well, there's a couple of things missing if we would want the entire implementation. One is the target maps and depth maps. So only really the things that change needs to be changed. No, that needs to be changed also change. And one is, but this is very Vue specific. There is a thing called ref, REF in Vue, which could be or which is only for one value. So it is it's similar to a reactive object, which just has something like a value and nothing else. but that is implemented differently than with reactive because it's this is very technical. In the Vue 3 composition API, the dot value unwraps when passing it further along and so on. It's that and computer properties, which also work a little bit different than this. But I think this is way enough information to get a little grasp on how reactivity would work, how you could implement something like this.
But
We
even that
learned about
observable pattern is very cool. If
yeah
you did not want to, like, if you had a big project, and we often talk about this in our Discord as well, about like, although there's frameworks and things, you don't always need them. So if you just needed a bit of, updates and things, like even just having the reactivity for those updates. I love. There's a comment here. Leave it for Evan and the other PhD nerds. It's so yeah. It's like it is a complex subject, but as I said, this is a great example for if you were doing a small project, you could get this reactivity in. Although I don't know if anyone would build this from scratch themselves or should.
Yeah, and also you don't have to. This is basically just an educational thing where you see a little bit behind the scenes, because in Vue 3, the reactivity package is completely separate. You can import just the reactive function. This one, you can do something like here, script source, and then here, blah, 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 /view, /view something, and then reactive, I think, JS. And then you can use the, you can import the package and use it as is. You can use it just like import something from Vue. I don't know exactly what the path is, but then you can use it.
Package.
Yeah, you can use it as is. And if you need some sort of reactivity, you can just get that small part of the reactivity package and leverage it for whatever little project you are doing. So
nice.
That's actually something I could write also blog posts about it, how to leverage Vue.js reactivity to build your own framework or to make a little project or something.
For sure, absolutely. That's very cool. I'm going to stop sharing your screen if nobody has questions. I'll give about 20 seconds before I stop the screen sharing. So in case anyone has any questions. This is very interesting. Once you brought up, because I was watching the console logs and it was difficult to follow the pieces along. But as soon as you brought the DOM into it, I was like, now I get it. Now I see why this is.
Oh my God, really... it's a website that's updating on real time.
I just remember from my early days of working with JavaScript, making, say, a drawing app with Canvas and like tracking mouse down and every movement and like all the little interlinks and things, and it's a nightmare. It's just not fun. I still look at my old little projects I built. I think it was with Team Treehouse at the time, and I still like, oh, this just still gives me nightmares.
Yes, a lot of implicit DOM manipulation, right? Something you don't do nowadays anymore.
No, for sure. Excellent. Thanks from Bruno in there as well. Excellent. Yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah, I'm sorry for confusing you guys there a little bit, because I got a little bit confused myself, and I'm sorry about that. I hope I didn't take the fun out of it, but I think it went okay.
No, I think, look, I still get especially when with console logs and things instantiating, especially when it's nearly like a class the way it works, in the sense of these functions are instantiated, that it calls that console log. It totally threw me for a minute as well. And I'm sure it threw most people that were watching it. So I don't think you were alone.
Okay, great.
Marc, a couple of questions for you off topic of this. I always like, I said, you're a very senior engineer at this stage. consulting on projects and doing these things. So I'm sure there's always people that are looking for advice on how to grow as a developer. So what would you say was the best bit of advice you got early in your career that I suppose helped you push yourself to where you are?
Oh, an advice I got. Well, one big push was when a teacher, an important teacher, I don't know if you have that in Ireland, when uh, let's call it the class teacher, like the one that manages the whole class and is responsible, but is like the main teacher. Well, that teacher told me, don't go studying computer science. You're not good enough. You're not going to be able to do it. And that's like was like a huge motivator for me. Like, oh man, I'm going to be like the best developer I can be. But no, I know what you're looking
I
for.
don't think
You're
that's
looking
advice. That's not
yeah,
advice
no,
at all. That's more
no.
like, screw you, guy. I'm gonna
Yes.
I'm gonna prove you wrong.
I hope he's watching. No, just a little fun anecdote. An advice, a really good advice. Wow, I don't even remember which advices I got, but one advice I could give you, or I would give myself, or my younger self, would be like that all the dots will connect down the road. So even though things don't make sense right now, just keep going, because in a month or 6 months or a year or 2 years, it will make complete sense. I started off with Ruby on Rails, and it's a little bit, there's a lot of magic in there. So a lot of stuff that happens out of the box, and you use it, and it just works, and you're like, but how?
Yeah.
And then after using it for 6 months or a year, you're like, oh yes, I'm going to customize this because the default thing isn't doing what I want. So trust me that it will all make sense if you practice with it. So that's another advice: practice. I think that everyone tells you that if you want to become good at something, practice, and coding is not different. Just practice, practice, practice.
I think
will
Danny
all.
Thompson probably tweets
Yeah.
that once a day, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It is one of those things, though. A lot of people say that, how did you get to where you are? It seems like this was overnight. Yeah. Oh, it was a few years for an overnight success, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know if they have that saying, but yeah, there's a lot of work up front to get to the place you are, especially in your career now.
Yes, and it all has to do with first practice, and then like not giving into your imposter syndrome, because that you think you're not good enough. Every developer has it. Everyone. I have it almost on daily basis, and I do big applications with complicated logic, and I constantly think, oh man, there's so much stuff that I don't know that I should know. That, oh my god, I don't know it, and that guy knows it, but maybe that guy doesn't know 100 other things. So don't compare yourself to others, and don't give into your imposter syndrome. I don't have a concrete actionable tip how to get rid of it, because you won't get rid of it. It will accompany your whole life if you keep being a developer. But how to suppress it, I also don't know. Just try not to give too much into it. Sometimes it will become bigger. It will make you like feel less worthy of being a developer. But just try to keep in your head that that's all just, there's so much stuff to know. You can't know everything, and like you will end up knowing so many things but still not know everything. So just try to not give into it too much. Practice and you will be fine.
Yeah,
That would be my
totally
advice.
agree. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I was always an advocate, especially earlier on in my career. Fake it till you make it, in the sense of, even if you don't believe in yourself, just pretend you do for a while, and your ability will eventually catch up with yourself,
Yeah.
as long as you
How do you think I
do
got this? How do you think I got in this show?
it. Yeah, I can do this.
If I can do this, you can do this.
Yeah, I'm just watching you palm your hands covered in ink. Where are my notes?
It's funny though. Everyone that's successful says, "If I can make it, you can make it." But it's from point I see it, it's like true at least for like developer things, but probably also for singers and actors and whatever. When they say like, "If I can do it, you can do this." I probably think with enough practice you can. If that's something you're passionate about, I think that's another thing you need: passion. If you don't have the passion, yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah, and I think there's a backlash to this lately, especially the kind of hustle porn, as they call it, or that side of things, saying you don't have to love development to be a developer, things. But trust me, it helps. It'll help you go further faster, and the more you work and do it and not hate it, it will make you a better developer.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can be a developer and not liking it, but it's a field where there's so much stuff to know, and when you're excited that there's something new you can try out, it's so much easier. It almost doesn't make sense to become a developer if you don't like it.
For sure.
There's so many things to do that are also interesting.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Excellent. Right. I don't think there is any more questions in the chat, and before people start annoying us a bit more, we might end the broadcast here. So thank you, Marc, for coming. I have all your links. Everyone should follow Marc on Twitter. And yeah, all the other useful links are there. I will also put in the interview, you interviewing Evan Yu. I'll put that link in the description below as well. So this is amazing. We brought up Evan Yu a couple times in this. So I'm going to share this in the comments as well here. But that is awesome. It's really, I'm sure you're chuffed and proud of yourself as well on this moment, especially as a Vue fan, to get to talk to
yes,
Evan.
I was, you can't believe how excited
Giggling
I
like
was
a schoolgirl, I'm sure.
Yes, and when I got the news, like a casual message in the DMs, like Joss from Vue.js answered, "Hey, how would you like to interview Evan Yu?" And I was like, "What? Me?"
Yes.
Me? Wow, I was so thrilled about that, and I was so nervous. Oh, I was so nervous because when I recorded my talk,
that's when imposter syndrome will kick in for sure.
Yeah, big time. Because when I practiced my talk for Vue.js Amsterdam, for Vue.js Global, I accidentally once said for recording it, "Oh, Evan Vue." Oh yeah, I learned this from Evan Vue, and I was like, "Oh man, I cannot say Evan Vue in the interview." Don't say it. I didn't. Spoiler, I didn't say it in the interview, but I was so nervous and so excited at the same time.
Yeah, so definitely check out that interview as well. I haven't got a look at it yet. I'll definitely be checking it out probably tomorrow at this stage. But yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks a million again, Marc, for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It has been
hopefully we see you again soon.
Great. Yes, sure. I will see. I could do something about virtual DOM.
Yeah, do you know what? That's something that also be probably, I don't understand enough of that, and as a React developer as well, that'd be super useful for me as well. So if you have some content on that, I'd love to have you back to talk about that as well.
Probably also getting confusing in the middle there, but at the end being, if you guys go ahead and look again at the code. Well, actually, I can not today anymore because it's late, but I can upload the code that we did. Yeah. So you guys can watch it and rethink it and play with it a little bit. So I think that would be great.
Yeah. So as soon as you have that, you can send that to me. I'll pin it as a comment, or if you want to comment, I'll pin your post, whichever.
Okay, perfect.
Great. Right. Thanks a million. And until next time,
thank you,
everyone,
Niall.
Happy coding.
Bye. Oh, wait. Yes.
No, I don't even have a React t-shirt. This isn't fair. I'm wearing some blue. It doesn't really even look blue against this.
Yeah, it doesn't reflect good on you, Niall.
No, before this fight breaks out, I'm going to end the broadcast.
Okay.
All right.